Even though Diadora is a brand that has been around for a very long time, I feel like they've been struggling to find their voice in the latest running boom. But this is the Frequenza 2. It uses an exciting new foam from Diadora, it delivers a unique experience, and it very well could be the centerpiece of Diadora's running renaissance. Let's lace up the Diadora Frequenza 2 and take it for a run. Yo, what's going on? Capuzzi here, and today I want to talk to you guys all about the Diadora Frequenza 2. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Diadora sent to me for the purpose of a review, so I didn't have to pay for these shoes. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their shoe in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Diadora Frequenza 2, and let's start with the specs. This is a 36mm stack height shoe with an 8mm drop, giving us 28mm of stack height in the forefoot. And in this midsole, there's only one compound, and that is Anima N2, a supercritical EVA nitro foam from Diadora that is relatively lightweight, very squishy, but also still quite springy. And as far as I know, that's the only thing that's in this midsole. I don't think that there's any sort of shank or plastic plate that's in this shoe. It's a very flexible, very neutral shoe. On the outsole, to protect all of this foam, there are two types of rubber that Diadora is using. They have their Duratec 5000, which is their more durable level of rubber that's in this high wear area on the back of the heel. And then in the front of the shoe, there is a soft rubber, which is going to give a little bit more traction and a little bit more softness underfoot, so you can feel more of what's going on with the midsole foam. Moving to the upper, we have a mesh and microfiber material upper, very breathable in the toe box. The tongue is very thin. The laces are the curly variety, which I appreciate in shoes that I'm supposed to be running a little bit faster in because they are less likely to get untied. And then we have a bunch of really puffy padding in the back of the heel cup. There is an Achilles flare, and everything that leads from the top of the laces all the way to the back of that heel flare is very well padded and puffy, and there is a rigid heel cup in the back of the shoe to give it a little bit of structure. Altogether, this shoe comes at a pretty lightweight 230 grams or 8.1 ounces. Now that we've talked about what the shoe is like on paper, let's talk about what it's like when we're on the road. The Anima N2 foam that Diadora is using in the Frequenza 2 is a lovely foam. There is such a great amount of squishiness to it. I'm really compressing that foam, but it's also still really springy as well. And so in other words, after it compresses, it bounces back in a very lively way, so it doesn't feel like the shoe is excessively mushy. I'm getting a nice sense of cushion and also speed. The shoe is light enough that it can be a workout shoe, but it's also comfy enough that you can certainly use this as a daily trainer. I think the shoe could even go long, and people can take it for long runs, even long runs that have some speedy miles in them. Although because this shoe is so neutral, it's such a flexible shoe, it's such a squishy shoe, I think for some people whose feet get very fatigued in their long runs and want a little bit of structure, may find it a little bit of a challenge to run for a very long time in the Frequenza 2. The step-in comfort of this shoe is really unique. It's such a spongy, fun experience, and it also translates to on the road, whether I'm using it for easy runs, long runs, strides, or marathon effort work. I'm having a good time running in this shoe. And I think in addition to that wonderful Anima N2 foam that they're using in this, I appreciate that they didn't mess it up by putting a lot of very dense, durable rubber in the forefoot. They're using that soft rubber compound material, which is going to likely impact overall durability of that rubber, but it is softer, which makes it grippier of a material, but also stays out of the way in terms of me being able to feel what the Anima N2 can really deliver. As we move to the upper, that's where things start to kind of like not be as great when it comes to the experience in the Frequenza 2. One of the things that I don't love about the shoe is that it's really puffy in the back of the shoe, and I don't think that a shoe in this kind of speed work / daily trainer category needs to be that padded, needs to be that cushioned. I really wish they would have done more of what New Balance did in the Rebel 3. And I feel like that shoe is probably the closest comparison shoe, if you've had experience in that one, in terms of what you're getting in the Frequenza 2. Functionally, we're getting a lot of the same things here. The silhouettes are the same, and I think the use cases are the same as well, where it can be a daily trainer and probably will be a daily trainer for a lot of people, but it also can very well be a speed work shoe. I feel like the Frequenza 2 kind of takes that same feeling of the Rebel version 3 and then iterates on top of it in a way that I think that New Balance decided not to go when they made the Rebel version 4. And so in a lot of the ways, I think that the Frequenza 2 is like a Rebel 3.5 or like a Rebel 3 Max, if you want to think about it in that way, because I'm getting a lot of those same sensations and notes of that shoe that I did really love the year that it came out, but I'm getting it in kind of a bigger package that has a little bit more cushion to it while still maintaining all of the nimble, fun speed of the Rebel version 3. But where these two shoes differ significantly is in the fits of the upper. Not only is the Rebel 3 have a very restrained and edited amount of padding in the heel cup, which I absolutely loved, and in contrast, the Frequenza 2 has just way too much puffiness in the back. I think the bigger problem with the Frequenza 2 is that the toe box is just way too small. I just think that there isn't enough height to give volume for the toes, and it feels like it's just way too snug. And so I just think that the size of this shoe is a real miss, and I think that's quite unfortunate because I think it otherwise could have been one of the best daily trainer / tempo shoes of 2025. Now, before we wrap up this video, let's take a moment to zoom out and see where the Frequenza 2 fits within the broader Diadora lineup. Whenever I take a look at a brand, I like to start with the Daily Trainer, and from Diadora right now, that is the Nucleo 2. Now, Diadora's latest campaign is about normalizing high mileage, and so a lot of their shoes are built with higher mileage runners in mind, so there's more stack height in the shoe, and there's some light stability features built into this one as well. They're using regular Anima foam in this shoe, which I believe is EVA, but the way that they're using the foam here makes me think that there might be something else going on with the foam. The back of this shoe is very stabilized and feels very much like a kind of old school EVA foam, especially with some of the way that they have these areas marked out that look like guide rails, so that prevents your shoe from tilting in or caving in too far on foot strike. And so the back of the shoe feels very stiff to me, but the front of the shoe feels really nice and soft, almost like there's a supercritical type of material in the forefoot. And so you're getting some light stability in the back of the heel and some nice cushion in the forefoot. And this is the daily trainer that you would reach for most of your workouts on most of your days of the week. And for those days where you want a little bit more stack height and maybe a little bit more motion control in the forefoot than what the Nucleo 2 has to offer, Diadora has the Cellula. Now, this is not only a taller shoe using Anima foam, but it has a nice geometry that helps the shoe roll quite well. It has a nice wide platform for you to land on that makes it inherently stable without using other traditional stabilizing elements. And the top layer of the shoe, the insole, is really nice and cushioned, so there's a really great step-in comfort as well. So for when you want to be on the road a little bit longer and you want a little bit more motion control, or for those people looking for a really great run walk option or mostly walk option, the Cellula is going to be a really great choice. Now, if you're looking for something to take on your fastest days for your race day, Diadora has a really fun option in the Gara Carbon 2. This shoe uses their Anima PBX foam, and that's going to stand for P-Bax, a race caliber foam, and it has a carbon fiber plate that you can see through this window in the bottom of the shoe. This is a race shoe intended for half marathon and marathon racing. It's also going to be really fun to take for a variety of very tough workouts. And then in between the race day shoe that is going to be prioritizing performance and not so much comfort and durability, and the daily trainer, which is built more for everyday use. That's where a shoe like the Frequenza 2 comes in as a tempo shoe. It's kind of got some feelings like a race day shoe. It's got that peppiness, it's got that agility, the nimbleness of that race day shoe, but it's built with more everyday usage in mind, like a daily trainer. And so this is the 4-shoe rotation as I see it that Diadora is presenting right now. We do also have one possible substitution for the Chellia. Instead, I think we could also possibly take a look at the Atomo Star. Now, the Atomo Star is a tall stack height shoe that is intended for either being a long run shoe because it's using Anima N2 foam, the same great foam that's in the Frequenza 2, but it's giving it to us in a bit of a max cushion package. So it can be that recovery run shoe. It can be a long run shoe where you have to pick up the pace a little bit, or just a shoe that you want to be really comfortable and pamper yourself. But to get there, you have to pay $240 for this shoe. And I feel like this shoe maybe fits in the regular rotation, but it also kind of straddles a line between regular rotation shoes and special edition shoes. Because of that price point, this shoe is part of the Made in Italy collection from Diadora. And that's going to be a whole other conversation for a whole other different video. But if price were no object, I would definitely put the Atomo Star here in this kind of max cushion slash long run spot. And this would be, I think, the best 4-shoe rotation that Diadora could provide. Now let's go over the buying guide and we'll also discuss some of the alternatives. The Diadora Frequenza 2 is a tempo shoe that is nimble enough for workouts, but versatile enough that a lot of people can be using this as a daily trainer. It's squishy without being mushy. It's fast without being firm. I feel like Diadora is starting to find a voice with this shoe, and I like what they have to say. Diadora doesn't have the market share as some of its global competitors, and so I think that gives them the freedom to speak very specifically to a subset of runners that is looking for a different kind of experience and a different kind of shoe. The Frequenza 2 is available now at a retail price of $180, and I think that might be a little bit expensive for what you're getting in this shoe, but I'm not all that mad about it because I feel like this is a shoe from a brand that is trying to reach a niche audience. Nevertheless, let's take a look at what some of the competition is offering in the marketplace. Now, I mentioned earlier that I think the Rebel version 3 is the closest competitor to the Frequenza 2, and I mean that in all of the best ways, but I don't really love to give alternatives for shoes that you can't really get anymore. So let's talk about the update to the Rebel version 4. Now, the Rebel version 4 was quite a departure from kind of the Rebel 3 idea, although functionally, they're still trying to do the same thing. This is a daily trainer that is comfy enough for long runs, durable enough for every day, but also light and speedy enough to take on some workouts. And I feel like that's a lot of how I can explain the experience in the Frequenza 2. Because of the EVA blend that's in the PIBA of the Rebel version 4, I do feel like that is a more stable shoe, plus the geometry of that is a lot wider in the footprint. And so you're getting a little bit more inherent stability from the geometry and the setup of that shoe, whereas the Frequenza 2 is going to be a little bit more on the chaotic and, in my opinion, fun side because of the way that that shoe is set up. Plus the fit is almost polar opposites in terms of what the Rebel 4 provides versus the Frequenza 2. The Frequenza 2 is just way too snug in the toe box, and the Rebel version 4 is borderline way too big, and some people I think have been sizing down in that shoe. The Rebel version 4 though comes in at $140 at full retail price, and I think that's a really great price for what you're getting in that shoe. Plus, because the Rebel version 5 is on the horizon, I think it comes out July 1st, this shoe is now available for $110, and that is an absolutely phenomenal price, and it's going to be very hard to beat. Now, the other shoe that I think we should take a look at is another shoe that I think is in the tempo category, but is being mostly used as a daily trainer, and that's from Saucony. This is the Endorphin Speed 4. They're using a beaded PIBA foam in this one and a nylon plate, and so it's a plated shoe, but I feel like the way that they're using the plate in the shoe, the way that they've positioned it, and the geometry of some of what's going on in the back of the heel of the Endorphin Speed 4 makes it a little bit kind of tuned down from what the paper specs might otherwise suggest. And so we have a shoe that's really good at workouts, but also definitely comfortable and soft enough for everyday training. And it's also got some of those durability features built into the outsole and on the upper. I feel like these two shoes are occupying very similar spaces, but approaching them with some slightly different materials to provide similar enough experiences, but there are some differences. I do think that the Endorphin Speed 4 provides a little bit better performance when it comes to workouts. So if you're looking for that pure tempo shoe, something to do a lot of threshold mile repeats in, I would say go with the Endorphin Speed 4 over the Frequenza 2. But if you are more focused on doing some workouts, and your big workouts, you'll probably use your carbon plated racer, and you want something that you could do some speedy stuff, maybe fartleks and daily training, then I'd say go with the Frequenza 2. It's chaotic in all the right ways that makes it a lot of fun for those everyday runs. So those are my thoughts on the Frequenza 2, a really nice surprise coming across my desk from Diadora. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about this shoe or any of the shoes that I talked about today, or better yet, stop by the live stream I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to see you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?